ICC has temporarily suspended its probe on the country's drug war following a petition from the Philippine government. But a lawyers group argues this move contradicts the government's claim that the ICC has no jurisdiction over the Philippines.
This I these I
Presidential aspirant and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte is back as hugpong ng pagbabagos chairperson. But she'll also remain as the chairperson of Lakas CNT, position that she assumed just last week. The health department reports some 1,400 new COVID-19 infections for today. And the longest partial lunar eclipse in a millennium dazzled night skies all over the world. But Pag-asa says the astronomical event was difficult to see here in the Philippines. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's a roundup of stories we are watching now. I'm Charles Lejano. The International Criminal Court temporarily suspends its investigation into the country's war on drugs. The ICC says they will assess the deferral request of the Philippine state on the probe. While it's on hold, the prosecution will continue to gather information and assess the need for applications to the pre-trial chamber. But this does not sit well with the lawyers or the families of those killed in the deadly drug war. Their stance remains to urge the ICC to continue its probe. Meanwhile, human rights group Center Law Deputy Director Gilbert Andres says the government's request to defer the probe contradicts its earlier stance that the ICC has no jurisdiction over the Philippines.
In the first place, the Philippines has consistently stated that the ICC supposedly has no jurisdiction. And yet it seems that with the filing of an Article 18.2 deferral, it seems to recognize the jurisdiction of the ICC. Or else, why are they filing? Why is it filing a deferral?
The health department reports over 1,400 new COVID-19 cases today. This brings the total caseload to 2.82 million, some 22,000 of which are still active. 15 duplicates were removed from the total case count. 13 of these are recoveries. 205 people died from the coronavirus over the past 24 hours, bringing the total death toll to more than 46,900. The DOH says 169 cases that were previously identified as recoveries have been reclassified as deaths after validation. Total recoveries, meanwhile, are at 2.75 million after over 2,500 new survivors were recorded overnight. 3.2% of the 38,600 tests included in today's bulletin yielded positive results. Davao City Mayor and Vice Presidential aspirant Sara Duterte once again chairs the regional party Hugpong ng Pagbabago. In a statement, Duterte said she's happy to be back in HNP as its chairperson. The local chief executive says she's a concurrent chairperson of both HNP and the national party Lakas CMD with the permission of the latter. Recall that only last week, the Davao City Mayor resigned from HNP and joined Lakas CMD before filing her candidacy as its substitute vice presidential bet. Election rules only allow the substitution of candidates if both the withdrawing and replacement candidates are from the same party. Manila Mayor and Acción Democrático presidential candidate Isko Moreno visited Payatas in Quezon City to meet with garbage collectors. This he called a meet and greet of garbage collectors from Payatas and Tondo, referring to himself, the son of Tondo. His message is clear: to serve as inspiration among garbage collectors and to end the long-standing problem on waste management. And if it's up to him, Moreno will never want to have another Payatas again. And to address this, he vows to launch an efficient biological waste management system to boost the Environment Department's funding and to turn waste management into a productive livelihood.
I'll listen to whatever technologies in the world and I'll try to get it and bring it in the country so that mabawasan na rin yung mga landfill concept. Kailangan natututo tayo at sumasabay tayo sa panahon. Hindi imposible na kahit ikaw'y basurero, hindi ka naangat sa buhay. Na kahit ikaw'y basurero, may pag-asa ka pala maging Pangulo ng bansa.
Supporters of Vice President Leni Robredo came out of their homes to show their support for the presidential candidate. Robredo vowed that should she win in 2022, her government will provide more attention to the fisheries sector. Brian Ang with the details.
Parts of Quezon Province turned pink as Vice President Leni Robredo supporters lined up at the sides of the streets to show their support and welcome her during her visit. Robredo met with different sectoral groups in Lucena and Sariaya, Quezon since Friday. On Saturday, multiple stationary caravans also welcomed Robredo during her trip to Mulanay, Quezon, where a multi-sectoral dialogue took place. They also facilitated the turnover of laboratory equipment and teaching devices to Bondoc Peninsula Agricultural High School. In a forum, Robredo said she is pushing for a blue economy and give additional attention and help to the fisheries sector.
Dapat talaga mas malaki na yung pagtutok. Malaki na yung pagtutok sa mga isda. Kasi tayo po ay isang archipelago. Di ba tayo ay isang archipelago, mas marami tayong katubigan kesa lupa. Pero kulang na kulang yung atensyon na binibigay natin sa ating mga katubigan. Pag binigyan ito na mas maraming atensyon sa focus, sigurado po tayo na matataas natin yung antas ng kabuhayan ng ating mga mangingisda.
Robredo added that the government should give subsidies to local farmers to compete with other countries in terms of prices.
Pag bumaba ang cost of production, hindi nabibili yung mga Pilipino ng mga imported kasi mababa na yung dito sa atin.
Benefits for solo parents were also tackled, as well as the OVP and partner programs that help increase the literacy rate among children in the municipality.
So para sa akin, hindi lang babalikan ang batas, pero dapat isali sa amendment sa batas na hindi lang yung mga nakasaad ng benefits, pero pati support services. Halimbawa,
Robredo said that although the OVP has a measly budget, that did not stop them from helping the poor and needy.
lahat pong programa namin bayanihan lang. Wala man po kami ng pera, dinadaan po namin sa SIPAG. Marami po kami private partners.
Meanwhile, volunteers and supporters of Robredo from different parts of the country participated in the celebration of the National Lugaw Day. Senator Kiko Pangilinan, together with Team Robredo Pangilinan supporters, also joined the celebration in Albay. Hundreds of supporters also gathered in Iloilo to walk as they call for a better nation in 2022. For News 5, Ryan Ang, We Are One News.
Presidential aspirant and Senator Panfilo Lacson, meanwhile, visited Pag-asa Island in the West Philippine Sea amid the tensions in the disputed waters. Marian Enriquez with the report.
Thank you.
Something has to change. This was Partido Reforma's standard-bearer Senator Panfilo Lacson's realization after visiting Pag-asa Island. During his visit, Lacson said their cockpit received a radio challenge from Chinese Coast Guards. They even saw several Chinese Coast Guard vessels lurking in the waters surrounding the island. They also received a text message upon arrival saying, "Welcome to China."
Madedemoralize at saka yung tatamaan kayo maski paano looking at the inhabitants there, and then bago ka mag-land, i-challenge ka na para bang nasa ibang bansa ka, para kang naligaw na nawala ka sa Pilipinas. Pagkatapos pag-land mo, welcome to China ka.
Even Partido Reforma President and Davao del Norte 1st District Representative Pantaleon Alvarez was disheartened.
May inis ka kung bakit hinayaan natin na ganyan ang sitwasyon sa atin ngayon. Tapos nalaman ko rin doon na yung palang mga fishermen natin, no, hindi na nakakapag-fishing doon sa area dahil tinataboy sila ng mga inchik na yung mga vessels.
Lacson called on the government to step up its efforts to provide shelters for local inhabitants in the area.
We should do something. Housing, for example, there are only 54 households. And yet, we saw a prototype housing unit na hindi naman kagandahan. So siguro, a 1 million peso housing unit for 54 households, hindi naman malaking halaga, 54 million compared to the 5 trillion budget that we will pass for next year.
As a symbol of asserting the country's territorial rights and jurisdiction, Lacson raised 3 Philippine flags in Pag-asa Island. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
Nations across the globe were in for a treat last Friday night with one of the biggest astronomical events for 2021. Cherry Salazar with a story.
Astronomy lovers and casual stargazers alike were dazzled by a partial lunar eclipse on Friday, November 19. The partial eclipse lasted for 3 hours, 28 minutes, and 23 seconds. And it was also the longest in 5 centuries, or since February 18, 1440, according to NASA. The eclipse, also called the blood moon for its reddish hue that was due to the refraction of sunlight by the Earth's atmosphere, could be seen in several parts of the world, such as in the United States, China, Chile, and Russia. However, it could not be observed in the Philippines, as most of the major eclipse phases occurred below the horizon, according to Pag-asa. Pag-asa explained, the eclipse began around 2:03 p.m. and ended around 8:04 p.m., while the moon was only about to rise above the Philippines horizon at 5:22 in the afternoon. Pag-asa said, this means that by the time the moon reached 19 degrees above the horizon, the eclipse has already ended. The next longest partial lunar eclipse is expected to take place 648 years from now. Cherry Salazar, we are One News.
For more updates, visit News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.